It began quietly, a few signatures, a few memos, and suddenly the blueprint was alive. In 2025, parts of Project 2025 stepped off the page and into policy. The story of a plan became the story of a government in motion. And what was once theory is now the foundation for a new operating system of power. The Human Recode, government rebuilt from within, January 20th, 2025. A new administration took office and within hours issued Executive Order 14151. It ordered every federal agency to terminate its diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Language lifted almost verbatim from Project 2025's call to remove divisive ideologies. Websites changed. Training portals went dark. An invisible switch flipped inside the bureaucracy. What looked like streamlining was actually recoding, a loyalty test for a new era. Within days, new staff appeared, drawn from the same think tanks that had drafted the plan. They didn't come to dismantle government, they came to rewrite its code. Culture codified when policy becomes identity. That same week, another order appeared, EO 14168, Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism. It redefined sex strictly by biology, removed gender identity options from passports, and blocked federal funds for gender-affirming care. For the authors of Project 2025, this was restoring natural order. For millions of Americans, it marked the moment culture became law. Classrooms were told to adjust lesson plans. Hospitals were told to revise forms. What had been a social debate was now federal policy. The paper thins. Deregulation as a quiet revolution. 2 days later came Executive Order 14148, rescinding more than 20 earlier environmental and labor directives. Permitting times shrank. Enforcement budgets froze. Project 2025 called it freedom through efficiency. Energy companies applauded. Labor unions warned of danger. But either way, the alignment was unmistakable. Then, on March 20th, another headline, an order instructing the Secretary of Education to begin dismantling the department itself. Authority and funding would flow back to the states. Exactly the devolution the blueprint described. No riots, no protests, just an ordinary-looking press release. That's how quiet revolutions begin. Energy dominance. The return of extraction. In April, Executive Order 14162 reopened federal lands for drilling and pulled the U.S. out of international climate accords. It was the formal birth of energy dominance, a phrase taken straight from Project 2025's economic vision. For now, gas prices fell and production rose. But satellites showed rising emissions, a reminder that prosperity often comes with interest due later. Digital dominion, when data becomes policy. That same month, EO 14179, removing barriers to American leadership in artificial intelligence, revoked previous oversight and ordered a national AI action plan. The Blueprint's digital governance chapter had imagined data as infrastructure. Now the build-out had begun. Each agency was told to share information more freely. Systems that once worked in isolation started to talk to each other. Efficiency was the headline. Integration was the story. The next logical step? A unified digital identification system. Once in place, privacy becomes a preference, not a right. The language of unity. In February came Executive Order 14224, declaring English the official language for federal operations. Presented as cohesion and clarity, it quietly fulfilled a cultural section of Project 2025. Words shape belonging, and the words of government now speak in one tongue. Under construction, power still compiling. So far, those are the visible pages, the chapters already read aloud. But many remain half-written. The plan envisions a presidency that doesn't just lead, it governs directly. Independent agencies folded under executive control. A bureaucracy selected for loyalty, not longevity. It hasn't happened yet. For it to become real, courts must expand the unitary executive doctrine. Congress must surrender oversight through gridlock or fatigue, and the public must accept efficiency as justification for consolidation. If that day arrives, the presidency will not simply guide the system. It will be the system. The market as regulator. Another chapter still loading imagines a marketplace that polices itself. For that to unfold, agency budgets would shrink further and enforcement would give way to self-certification and best practice pledges. Already, industries experiment with this model. Carbon credits traded voluntarily, AI companies drafting their own ethics codes, labor boards deferring to private arbitration. The rhetoric is innovation. The reality could be privatized law. Faith as policy. The social architecture of Project 2025 reaches beyond law books. It dreams of moral infrastructure, grants favoring faith-based charities, tax incentives for traditional households, curricula infused with patriotic and religious framing. A few of these shifts have begun quietly through agency guidance and budget notes. The next stage would require Congress to enshrine them, turning cultural preference into legal structure. Once faith defines eligibility, pluralism becomes permissioned. Energy's future. Abundance at a cost energy policy now follows a straight line toward extraction. But the end goal, dominance through abundance, remains incomplete. For total realization, carbon taxes must vanish, coal subsidies must return, and environmental review boards must lose veto power. The near-term reward, booming industry, jobs in heartland states, a short-term GDP surge. The long-term cost, atmospheric debt, a bill that arrives as storms. The data state, the invisible network. Technology is quietly building the nervous system for centralized control. Federal AI officers now exist in every major department. Cross-agency data exchange is accelerating. The missing piece is identity, the link that binds it all together. A national digital ID could emerge from the next cybersecurity bill or social benefit modernization act. It will be marketed as convenience. It will function as visibility. Once every citizen is logged, governance shifts from reaction to prediction. And when prediction becomes policy, freedom becomes a variable in an algorithm. Life in the compiling future for ordinary people, these changes don't feel like upheaval. They feel like simplification. Gas costs less. Forms process faster. Government seems more responsive. But under the surface, the architecture of power is changing shape. Teachers adapt to new standards. Doctors follow revised funding rules. Federal employees measure their words twice before speaking once. Citizens sense the culture shifting, but can't name the code running beneath it. Some call it restoration. Others call it regression. Both may be right, because both are happening simultaneously. Closing. The Quiet Upload Project 2025 was never just a policy document. It was source code for a different America. Some lines have already executed. Others wait for the right input, a crisis, a court decision, a willing Congress. The future rarely arrives with a bang. It installs itself silently, process by process, until one morning the system reboots and everything looks the same, but behaves differently. By the time the screen flashes update complete, the program will have rewritten itself. And so will we.